All right, real quick, just wanted to go over the Terminator harness that I got going in to the Phoenix up meow. You guys, you guys might have ran into this before. You get the harness, you go throw it in the engine bay, and it just doesn't, no, nothing really ends up where it needs to be. So you just kind of make it fit, and it looks like a disaster in there. So I've already taken all the loom off, and I've kind of gotten everything sorted to where it needs to be. So I just wanted to show you this in case you're looking, this is something you might be looking to do at home is, maybe making this thing fit a little bit better under your hood. It's pretty basic. So what I've got here is everything's laid out for me in my mind right now where everything's going, so it makes perfect sense. It doesn't mean we're perfect. This is just the point where everything's done and we're ready to throw it up into the chassis, run everything, and then see if anything needs to be extended or shortened, etc. So right now we got our two headers. These are the big connectors that go into your Holley. They're going through the Firewall. I'll be able to hopefully just run this through the Firewall and not have to run from the inside the cab out through to the engine bay. So my idea is to keep it simple. On the inside, it's just going to have this right here, these wires over here, and the can. So down here are the wires that we'll need. Basically looking at them, we got a few inputs for things like launch, air conditioning. We got switched hot, and we got our fuel pump boy, and that's about it. All that's going to go in a Deutsch connector. It's all relatively low amperage stuff, signals and whatnot. So yeah, that'll just be a Deutsch connector there that'll plug into all the stuff that this is wired to, which will make it easy to get in and out. I like to keep the relays in the engine bay. I don't know, it just seems to be easier to get to. Then my under my dash is pretty congested anyway, so we've added a length of wire here. Went from, it was like 14 gauge, and we just stepped it up to like a 12 gauge, and that will be hung in the engine bay. So that will be everything basically around this little tie, which if you guys are doing this stuff, these little Velcro ties are kind of convenient to use, kind of get everything where it needs to go. Yeah, so inside here we have our CAN bus guy, and I'll just go over every little thing so that way you guys can see how it works. It's just a 12 volt, a ground, CAN high, and a CAN low is that connector. Real simple. I say sensor ground, so sensor ground. All this stuff will be sensor ground if it's in here, so just keep that in mind. We have our relay here, and basically it's just a hot in through a 30 amp fuse going to a relay, and it's using the switch to turn the relay on, which turns the computer and everything on. So that's how that is laid out. All of this stuff zigging out that way will be stuff that goes along the back of my Firewall and to stuff on the passenger side of the engine. Over there I have fuel pressure, the wideband, and the crank trigger, which will actually not do that at all. It'll run underneath along. We made this little bracket here to hold this, and it's going along here, and it'll run up through to the back of the starter over here. Yeah, so that is where that stuff is going over there. This little flying lead over here, well, I have one Deutsch 12-pin connector that connects all the stuff that is easier routed through the chassis to the harness. So this will go out to a 12-pin that connects stuff like my wheel speed sensor, the coolant pressure, the AC kick, fan, etc. All that stuff is going that way, and that just leaves us running down the middle here, which is just kind of your normal things. So we have an oil pressure in the back. As you think about the engine oil pressure guy, it's just it's a 5 volt sensor ground and a signal, real simple. We have the ignition coils, which is not quite as simple, lots of wires, but you can work through any of these things if you just do it a pin at a time or a wire at a time. Then we go to our ignition coil guys on either side. Then we just run out. We got our map sensor. Again, it's just a 5 volt sensor ground and then a signal wire. Our coolant temperature sensor, which is, I think it's a signal on the ground. It's I'm not really, I'm not 100% on how those guys work, but that's we got signal on the ground. I think they're called a thermistor or something like that. And then lastly, we got our cam trigger guy for that. And all this stuff, what we're gonna do now that we have it all kind of separated where everything needs to go, is we're going to stick it into the chassis. We're just going to stick that through the firewall, plug it all in, build our Deutsch connector to connect that all under the dash, and then just run through here and terminate, lengthen, shorten, do whatever we got to do with these wires to make them run and land how we want them to land in the engine bay. So it's not really any voodoo. Everything's pretty easy once you get in there and start poking around. Get yourself a Holley manual, open it up, and you start looking at it, and you'll start realizing it's really simple. There's kind of a color scheme to the wires. It's really easy, and no need to cause lots of anxiety. Just take your time, do it right, learn how to crimp. That's the biggest thing, is getting the crimps done right, and everything else just kind of falls into place. This used to scare the bejesus out of me, and that's why I'm making this video, is because I know there's people out there like me that used to just look at a sensor. You guys are old carb and distributor guys, points, condensers, and all this stuff is wildly terrifying. It's really not. You guys can do this. Yeah. So anyway, just want to post this up, give you guys a quick behind the scenes. Hope that helps somebody out. Thanks. Bye.